Tell me a story, Daddy, demanded Alex. He jumped up and down in his boxy astronaut costume, ready to blast off on a mission to collect candy. We are getting ready for Halloween, said Daddy. And they were. Pumpkins were on the porch, ready to show their bright faces to the world. Candy was in the bowl, ready to give to the trick-or-treaters. And children started to walk up and down the street on a mission to collect bags of candy. But Alex wanted to hear a story first. A quick story, then. Did you ever hear the story about Giacomo the Pumpkin? Daddy asked as he sat on the steps between the glowing pumpkins. No! Is it good? Asked Alex. I think you will like it. Sit on the steps on the porch, and I will tell you the story. Not too long ago, there was a small Italian village called Stracciatella. It was hidden in a valley where the Pennine Mountains stood strong. Stracciatella was said to be right in the middle of a ghostly highway that spirits used as an escape route to the large mountains. Because of this, the villagers of Stracciatella were the most miserable people ever. They never left their village, feeling it unnecessary to talk to outsiders and scared of disturbing the spirits. They didn't like talking to each other either, but when they did, it was all just gossip and dirty looks. Two of the villagers were Lucy and Bruno. Did you hear that so-and-so has a wart on his finger? Asked Lucy, the town gossip. She never had anything nice to say about anyone. Warts! Disgusting! Bruno was one of the region's best bakers, but he was also the greediest. Bruno bakes and Bruno sells, but he doesn't make money sharing, he would sing when anyone would dare ask for a morsel of his fresh pies. The only two villagers who were not miserable or haunted by imaginary ghosts were Manny the engineer and his fearless son, Pat. They were adventurers, ready to find the possibility in each new day. They loved hiking through the Mazza Mountains, which were filled with wild animals, big and small. They also loved standing along the banks of the winding Sinistro River, looking for the brightest fish darting through the darkest parts of the water. No day is boring, said Manny, if you know where to look. Then, one day, the sound of galloping was heard miles away, and clouds of dust appeared over the dark green forest. The ground shook with the combined fury of thunder and earthquakes. It got louder, and louder, and louder, and louder! The villagers stopped and forgot to be miserable for a few moments and tried to make sense of the image in front of them. A skinny old man with a dirty old hat and coat and wild dark eyes pulled into the center of the village upon his large, pure, noble white horse. Okay, Silver Streak, time to take a break. Time to rest, the old man said. He patted his horse and dismounted. The old man was hungry and looked for some hospitality. I have no money, but I am a problem solver. You look like a baker. Can you trade a warm loaf of bread for some conversation with an old man? You may learn something. I run a bakery, not a charity, responded Bruno. There is nothing more that I need to learn. The old man went one by one through the crowd of miserable villagers, and they all denied him even a scrap of rotten bread. A short arm extended with an apple, tightly held by a small hand. Here you go, said a boy named Pat. You can come by our house. He gave a little smile. I even have a small apple for your horse. Silver Streak would really like that, said the old man. The old man untied his horse and followed the boy to the end of the village. They passed by some of the other villagers, who did nothing but sneer and snicker at the odd couple. We are home! A strange old man needs some food, shouted Pat. Besides strange old man, I'm also known as Mago. Your son was kind enough to invite me over for a warm meal. I hope I'm not imposing, smiled the old man. Manny was surprised at first, then settled into a hearty laugh. You're more than welcome. Sometimes Pat brings in lizards, frogs, and snakes, so you are a pleasant surprise. I'm Manny. Mago looked around and was dazzled by all the devices, gadgets, and books that filled the circular room. He was in the workshop of an exciting inventor. You have quite the interesting life here. Outside, I was surrounded by the most selfish, miserable people that I have ever encountered. I feel a warmth that was missing outside. They walked upstairs. Beautiful! Exclaimed Mago. Beautiful! What a wonderful view! The moonlight gives the valley a majestic power. He drew a focused gaze. What are those orange patches over there? He asked. That is Pat's pumpkin patch, said Manny. That is where I play, said Pat. You can see the biggest pumpkins are bigger than my dad, and they are so bright, like the sun. My mom taught me how to grow pumpkins. What an imagination, said Mago. He's not imagining that, said Manny. Those pumpkins are massive. Between the river and fertile land, the pumpkins are happy and grow large. Where is your mom now? Asked Mago. She is no longer here. She was sick for a short time, and then Pat faded off. Later that night, Mago could not sleep. There was something about the valley, the pumpkins, and the moonlight. He snuck past Manny and Pat, who were in a deep slumber. Jumping on Silver Streak, he raced straight toward the pumpkin patch, then stared at the enormous pumpkins, which were as high as a house and just as wide. The pumpkins drowned under the bright moonlight that drenched the pumpkins and gave them a magical sheen that brought a twinkle to the wizard's eye. The pumpkins were talking to him. He picked the largest, most orange pumpkin in the patch and said, 3 times the size you will grow. On your legs you will go. Open your eyes. Your name I know. Silver sparks flew violently, dancing around the pumpkins, lighting up the large, lush valley. Mago waited. Then the pumpkin looked back at him. What's my name? It asked. Giacomo, responded Mago. I think I would like to stand, said Giacomo the Pumpkin. He stood and was so tall he almost touched the sky. What can we do now? Said Giacomo. Let's wait until morning. Then we will make a special visit, said Mago. Until then, let's count stars, said Mago. Early the next morning, Pat awoke. Someone was knocking on the door. Who could be knocking so early? The rooster just started to crow, said Pat. Ask who it is at the door, said Manny. It's me, Mago, and I brought a friend. All Pat could see outside was Mago and 2 very tall, thin branches. Look up, said Mago. And that's when Pat saw Giacomo, who looked as big as the sun and was just as bright. What can he do? Asked Pat. Anything, whispered Giacomo. He had whispered a powerful whisper. Giacomo, can you help me pick some fresh apples? Asked Pat. Only the best ones, whispered Giacomo. And Giacomo stretched to the top of the tallest apple tree, full of the reddest of apples, so Pat could pick the most majestic and brightest of them all. Giacomo, can you climb up to the Stracciatella Mountains? Asked Pat. Only the highest one, Giacomo whispered. While they were climbing, Giacomo saw that Manny and Pat were shivering, so he wrapped his leafy arm around them to protect them from the cold air. Why do you whisper, Giacomo? Manny asked. They were enjoying the epic view overlooking the valley. When you are as big as me, there's no need to shout. Manny and Pat laughed. Giacomo whisper laughed. Giacomo escorted Manny and Pat through Stracciatella. Riding on top of their new giant friend, they could not see the concern from the villagers below. One old man raised his fists. We have tried so hard to keep sorcery away, and now this evil giant walks through our village. Who knows what is next? I always knew that Manny was a strange outsider. Now he welcomes this old trickster. He's turning perfectly good produce into monsters! He kicks up dust, shakes the buildings, and poses a danger to us all! He could step on us and not know we are underneath him," said Lucy. The son of Bruno the baker, Sammy, saw the giant pumpkin lumber past him. He looked at Lucy, his cheeks flushed with anger. "My father works too hard to let the beast ruin our business." "I have an idea," he said. "We need ideas," said Lucy. "Any kind will do." Sammy ran through the town and up towards the dam, which housed some of the water that kept the valley lush. "If I can release just enough water from the dam, then I can wash away the monster," said Sammy. He slowly removed the smaller stones from the dam and began to roll the larger away until a trickle turned into a large trickle. "Trickle. Just a little more water should do it," said Sammy. "Trickle. Just a little more," said Sammy. "Burst!" Sammy removed too many stones from the dam. Violent streams of water raced towards the now doomed village of Stracciatella. Giacomo rested on a hill outside the village. He didn't want to scare any more villagers. "What are you going to do, Giacomo?" asked Pat. "I am going to stay away from Stracciatella. I don't want to scare anyone. I can hide in the forest and hide so only you and your father can find me." Manny noticed something in the distance. "The dam is bursting!" shouted Manny. "If that water gets to the village, it'll wipe everyone out!" Giacomo shot up. His legs grew 20 stories high. He stretched his arms and legs as far as he could to reach across the valley and block the dam. Using all his strength, he held down the dam and stopped the rocks from tumbling down towards the village. He saved the village, but he could not move. He was stuck. The mud, rocks, and sticks wrapped around him and kept him from moving. Even Mago's magic could not help. Lucy wiped the dust off his skin so he glowed. Bruno made him a large sugar pie. "Maybe the spirits won't come back if you glow, Giacomo," said Bruno. He shined bright for the village. Manny and Pat went to visit him. "Are you sad?" asked Pat. "A little. I cannot move, but I can watch over the valley. And if the spirits come, I will frighten them away." He made a scary face. Then he returned to a smile.